What do you get when you take an M113, lock it in a room with the greatest not a tank of all time, and then let them hash it out? The answer, the AMPV. Alright, quick backstory. The M113, aka the Battle Taxi, has been rolling around and getting it done since the early 1960s. It's the Swiss Army knife of military vehicles. It can do a bit of everything. It's small, it's compact, but also like a Swiss Army knife, it's made from thin metal and isn't meant to handle any serious abuse. Fast forward to the 1980s and America's ground combat champion, the Bradley, swoops in like a protective father, pushing the M113 to the back lines where it can't get itself into trouble. Now, as good as the Bradley is, it's still an IFV, or infantry fighting vehicle. What we needed was a true 113 replacement, a new modern APC or armored personnel carrier. Normally this wouldn't be a problem because the government would just whip up a list of requirements, accept some proposals, and go from there. But when it came to the AMPV, they threw in a curveball. See, Uncle Sam only has so much cash to throw around, so to keep costs down, the Army wanted the AMPV to be a commercial off-the-shelf design. That's right, they wanted something they already had in their inventory that they could make work for a tracked APC role. That's a pretty smart move, actually. This not only keeps the development and purchase costs down, but also cuts down on logistical headaches when these things inevitably break down and need replacement parts. But aside from that one little requirement that definitely wouldn't influence who would win the contract, the other requirements for the AMPV were simple enough. It had to do everything the 113 did, but do it better in every single conceivable way imaginable. There also needed to be 5 variants to include a general purpose version, medical evac, medical treatment, mission command, and a mortar carrier variant. Oh, and it also needed to have more space, more power, beefier electronics, survive hits from all sides, and keep up with M1 and M2 chassis vehicles. Foreshadowing, that last one becomes super relevant to who ultimately wins the bid. Now, in case you didn't know, most military equipment is cranked out by only a handful of companies. These companies live and die by the military contracts they can lock down. And since massive contracts that can reshape the entire Army's arsenal don't come around often, snagging one of these contracts is kind of a big deal.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
People know me.
2 of the heavy hitters fighting for Dad's attention are General Dynamics and BAE Systems. General Dynamics are the legends behind the world's angriest tank, the M1 Abrams. They also produce the newest member of the not a tank family, the M10 Booker combat vehicle, and they also make the Stryker. Now, as for BAE Systems, well, they crank out a ton of stuff you've probably heard of too, like the M109 self-propelled howitzer, the M88 Hercules, the M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, the M3 Bradley cavalry fighting vehicle, and, believe it or not, the M113. You idiot. BAE didn't make the Bradley. FMC did. This guy doesn't know anything he's talking about. Oh my gosh, I thought we were done with this dude. Bro, I'm aware that FMC were the ones that developed and produced the M113, but through a series of moves and acquisitions, BAE Systems acquired the rights to produce the 113. Can we get back to the video now? So with a contract of potentially $4.7 billion on the line, the race was on to produce the Army's next generation armored personnel carrier. But it didn't take long before one of the contractors would call foul and throw a tantrum. In 2014, General Dynamics filed a formal protest with the Army Material Command stating that the AMPV requirements had been written to favor the Bradley fighting vehicle chassis designed by BAE Systems. To which Big Army basically said, "We're the ones writing the check, deal with it."
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
Okay, I made that last part up, but they did say that there was no preferential treatment, so just design the best vehicle you can. Now, as you can imagine, with billions of dollars on the line, General Dynamics didn't take this response lying down. They even went as far as to suggest splitting the contract so that the Army would restructure its combat teams to include both tracked and wheeled APCs. Well, that idea went about as well as you'd expect, and the Army said not just no, but hell no. Tracked vehicles were invented for a reason, and when vehicles get bigger and heavier, wheels are about as useful off-road as a screen door on a submarine. Now, in General Dynamics' defense, they did propose a tracked Stryker variant, to which BAE Systems had a good laugh about. Roy Perkins, Director of Business Development for BAE Ground Vehicles, responded to the tracked Stryker concept announcement with, "I'm not sure how you convert a vehicle specifically designed for wheeled operations to run on tracks. The suspension, for one thing, is totally different. The thing to remember about our vehicle is that it's not a new vehicle. It's basically a Bradley, and we've built 11 variants of Bradley to date." That's pretty cold for one company to diss another so bluntly, but ultimately, he's not wrong.
Okay. All right.
Not only was the Bradley chassis a better fit for the AMPV, but it could also be built theoretically on the cheap by raiding the vast fleet of surplus Bradleys and refit them. All you gotta do is knock that turret off, give her the old spit shine treatment, and she's off to the races. Oh my bad, I almost forgot. Navistar Defense was actually a third player bidding for the AMPV for whatever reason. They offered up their Max Pro MRAP as a possible option, and I can't find a single shred of evidence as to why the government didn't even consider this option, so I can only imagine the government told Navistar to go sit down somewhere because the adults are talking right now.
Damn!
Bye, Felicia.
Now, in a surprise twist that shocked absolutely no one, BAE Systems was awarded the contract and the first AMPVs were fielded to the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team 3rd ID in early 2023. There's still no specific date on when the entire Army will fully replace its M113s with the AMPV, and there's even talk about replacing echelons above Brigade M113s with Strykers. So yes, General Dynamics is still very much in the game with another 1900 M113 replacements up for grabs. You gotta hand it to a company that builds tanks. Like their 19 kilo counterparts, they just won't give up and will beat the world into submission until they get what they want. So if you've made it this far in the video, then you probably give a crap about my opinion on this thing. So do I think the BAE Systems AMPV is good or bad? Personally, I'm really excited for it. I've spent most of my career living that armored life, so naturally I've spent my fair share of time in the 113, 577, and 1068s. While I do love the 113 for its mountain goat-like agility, you couldn't pay me enough to ride in one if I knew an actual threat was coming over the hill. Now the Bradley, on the other hand, that's a whole nother story entirely. I love the Bradley, but what I don't love about it is that turret. If my job was to slap around bad guys like they owe me money, then sure. Give me a Bushmaster with 25mm Freedom samples all day long. But that's not my job. I'm an engineer, and we've got enough crap to carry already. Combat engineers are already stuffing hundreds of pounds of explosives between their legs and the back of that Bradley. I can semi-confidently say we'd rather have more room in the back than that turret in the middle. Regardless of what side of the fence you straddle, either way, I'd rather take a Bradley in the battle over a 113 6 days of the week and twice on Sundays. But what about the Stryker? Did the Army do General Dynamics dirty and set them up for failure? I think yes, and personally, I think that's for the best. Allow me to explain. Listen, I love the Abrams tank more than some members of my immediate family, but General Dynamics, you really did the Army a disservice with that Stryker. In theory, it's a great vehicle, but in practice, it's a maintenance nightmare. Seriously, no wheeled vehicle should be deadlined as much as a tracked vehicle. You could have the most perfectly maintained Stryker on the planet and it'll still spring a Class 2 leak on you while sitting still. And your brilliant idea is to take an already maintenance-heavy platform and turn it into an even more maintenance-heavy platform. Now that I think about it, that Army math adds up. At least if we had gone that route, we could keep civilian maintenance contractors in business for longer. Lord knows I need yet another dude in 5'11" tactical pants, mirror boots, and a 2 size too small polo telling me that the vehicle is capable, but we have to learn how to take care of it properly. What, too soon? That was an overly ranty way of me saying no. I think the Army actually made a good decision of going with BAE Systems. I do realize I'm gonna have a tough time digging myself out of this hole when I eventually make a video about how awesome the Stryker is. But oh well, that's a tomorrow problem. Anyway, if you like this video, then I'm sure you're gonna wanna learn more about the vehicle the AMPV replaced. Just go ahead and keep on binging content, you deserve it. And if you want, like and subscribe, or don't, hey, it's a free country, go ahead and exercise those freedoms. CT6, out.